Hello, students, parents. This is Sensei Tibone of Tibone's Goju Fighting Arts Karate Studio. Again, bringing you an outstanding presentation by Sensei Justin Love, one of my third-degree senior black belts, a CHP officer, and also a CHP Academy instructor in Sacramento. He has today with him his partner in the modern-day warrior concepts, Beto Vargas. And so between these two gentlemen, they have experience in presenting outstanding seminars and workshops dealing with active shooter at many of the churches, as well as here at the main dojo here at Tibone's Goju, and have served a lot of incredible people with how to protect themselves in the chance that there is an active shooter who enters a restaurant, a church, or even a shopping center. Today they're going to bring you some great opportunities on how to deal with self-defense during the COVID-19 shelter-in when you're out and about. So, gentlemen, proud to have you here today. Thank you again for putting on this great presentation. Sensei Justin and also Beto, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sensei, for that wonderful introduction. First and foremost, it's a pleasure and honor to be here. I know everybody's still cooped up in that shelter in place and starting to feel a little old now, but hopefully these videos that we've been able to shoot for you and provide some in-home training is helping you at home get through some of the things that we're facing. Today, we're going to be bringing you lessons of some current crime trends that are going on amongst the situation with the shelter in place. I'm going to bring my law enforcement experience. Next year, I'll have 20 years of law enforcement experience under my belt. And then also as an instructor, teaching tactics to not only law enforcement officers, but to civilians in modern warrior training concepts. We want to share some of those things with you for our dojo families to keep you safe during this time. And as things start to open back up and as business starts to become more, businesses become open again and we start to resume our normal lives, some of the current trends and things that are happening out there you need to be aware of. Without further ado, I also want to introduce a good friend of mine here. This is Beto Vargas. He's also one of my partners in Modern Warrior Training Concepts. I've known Beto since he was 15, and right now he's almost going to be 22, and he's looking to get into a career in law enforcement. He's in the testing process for our department, so we're very proud of him and all of his accomplishments. But highly trained individual, and with that being said, we're going to jump right into it. Ready, Beto? All right, cool. So the first thing we're talking about right now during the COVID-19 situation is this shelter in place. Right now, we've been in shelter in place well over 4 weeks now, and some of the current crime trends we've been seeing nationwide is carjackings. And let me just kind of preface to why this is starting to become more prevalent. Number one, especially here in California, and we're seeing this started happening in the East Coast predominantly and starting to make its way here. Criminals are realizing that if they get arrested for something, even for violent crimes in certain situations, they're getting released. There's a zero bail policy that they have here that the California criminal courts had to adhere to. What does that mean? We've seen just in the last couple of weeks where hardened criminals have been released from jail. They get booked, get their picture taken, and they're right out the back door because they have a zero bail policy. They don't want to infect the inmates in the in custody setting with this COVID-19. So what does that mean? That means these hardened criminals, these people who have no regard for your life or your family's regard, will commit these crimes with essentially no consequences. So they're not even seeing any type of, they're not even spending any time in jail, keeping them off the streets. They're back out in the neighborhoods, they're back out there terrorizing the community. There has been several instances here in San Joaquin County, specifically in Stockton, where you have an individual stealing cars, carjacking people, right back out there on the streets, committing the crimes the very next day. It's been in the headlines. You can research it if you want on your own. The other thing that we're seeing out here too in nationwide is home invasions, because the opportunity to commit crimes while you're out is not there anymore to rob you at an ATM or to hold up liquor stores and things like that. They're going to rob you at your home now. That's where you're at. That's where your family's at. That's where you're sheltered in place. And that's where the resources are at. That's where the money, that's where the criminals are starting to take their enterprise to. And with police responses, taking up anywhere to 5 to 7 minutes, they can be in and out of your home, causing undue damage, untold damage and trauma to your family within just a couple of minutes before the police can respond. And if even the police responds, depending on the level and severity of the crime and what they can prove, they might even get booked into jail, maybe be back out on the streets the very next day. I'm not here to provide any type of fear or panic, but just simply awareness of what's going on in our communities. to let the parents out there know what they can do to stay safe during this time to keep their family safe. So just as a little disclaimer, the topics that we're going to be sharing with you today is more or less geared to the adults in the family to listen in on these topics and not so much for the children. There are going to be some mature things we're going to be talking about here. Again, not to instill fear or anything like that or panic, but just to provide awareness and some additional things that you can do to keep yourself safe at home. We're going to start off first with carjackings. Now, carjackings are starting to be on the rise because of several reasons. Number one, you feel like you're safe in your car, all right? The next time you're out in your car and you're at a business or something, look around and see who else is in the cars next to you. You're gonna find that a lot of people are on your phone. You're gonna be out here and you're gonna be, checking in, maybe you're putting in that mobile order or checking a status or something, or maybe you're on Facebook. But a lot of people are here right now. And they're sitting in their cars unaware of what's going on around them, and that's problematic because a bad guy is looking for that opportunity to capitalize on your ability not paying attention to what's going on. Okay, so situational awareness is key. And this is where robberies, carjackings take place, because a suspect or a bad guy can come right up on you, knock on your window and surprise you, have a gun in your face, and now they have access to your keys, your family could potentially be in the car, or even worse, they carjack you, kidnap you at the same time, and then all your information for your house where you live is also in that car too, with your registration and things like that. So we're going to dive into these complex issues and give you some tips on how you can prevent that from happening. Okay, I think there's not a one-size-fit-all approach to what we're going to talk about, but there are certain things that you can do to minimize your risk in most situations. The first one is going to be situational awareness. This is something we stress in our active shooter courses when we're teaching churches and business and things like that, is simply being aware of your background. That is critical. As a martial artist, it's something that we teach right from the get-go. It's called zanshin, awareness of what's going on, being in the moment and have presence of what's going on so you're not blindsided to what's happening. Because if you have awareness to what's going on, it buys you time to react, to think, to process. Your ability to make better decisions comes when you can see things from far away versus they're right on top of you. Now you're surprised, you have stress, all these different emotions are starting to overcome you. You're not going to react in the same way. And that can get the best of us. I've seen police officers who've been ambushed in the line of duty, and you think, oh, police officers are well trained, they should be able to handle themselves, and you have a suspect walks up right with a gun. And police officers, believe it or not, they get ambushed in their vehicles too. And this is something that we actually train at the CHP Academy on how to mitigate some of these factors. So even with the best training, your best professionals can even be taken by surprise if you're not paying attention. So that's the very first thing you can do, is situational awareness. If you are on your phone, take a second to look up, see what's going on around you. You should do that probably every, I would say, 15, 20 seconds? And just scan, see what's going on. Things change around you in your environment quite often. Hey, who is that guy walking with me? Well, I have this transient person, that guy looks like he's on drugs. Something that catches your attention. Hey, who's this person who parked up next to me? I have to admit, lately I've been doing a lot of takeout orders and things like that. And so the place I like to go is Chick-fil-A. You like Chick-fil-A? I love it, right? And you'll pull up and they have these numbers where you pull up into the stalls and wait, and then the server comes and brings your food. So while I'm waiting, I'm all, checking in, making sure they know I'm here, what vehicle. But then I'll put my phone down and I'll look around and see who's around me. And in the course of 5 or 10 minutes while I'm waiting for my food comes out, there had already been on my left side 4 cars pulling in and out, and then also on my right side several cars pulling out with multiple people walking by. Just in the time of 10 minutes waiting for my food to come out, there could have been potentials for me to be attacked at any one of those moments. If I had my windows rolled down, my doors unlocked, I've got my family in the car, music going, and I'm on my phone, that's a perfect recipe right there to get ambushed, because here you are thinking you're in a safe environment, it's in the middle of the daytime, and all it takes is somebody to open up the door, get a hold of you, startle you really, and you're going to be so, oh, what's going on? You're not going to be in that cognitive mind to react. I don't care if you're a black belt with, national champions under your belt. You can't throw that Yakuzuki fast enough from a seated position to end the fight when you have somebody in your face with a gun because you never recognized it, because you're one moment thinking you're going to eat and your family and everything's good, and now all of a sudden you have a gun stuck in your face and you don't have any time to react. So that's the reality of these situations. Just recently here in Stockton, before the COVID-19 shelter-in-place happened, we had an incident here at a gas station where a young woman, she was the same situation. It was at a gas station. Husband went inside the gas station to go pay for the gas. They were at the pumps. They had their kid in the back of the car seat, and a deranged gentleman who was high on drugs, way out of his mind, went inside, opened up the door. It was unlocked. The window was open. Got access inside the vehicle, started beating on the woman who was the right front passenger seat, trying to pull her out of the car, but she was able to grab onto the steering wheel and honk, kick, scream, yell, draw attention in the middle of the daytime. It was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the day. There's people everywhere. It was good Samaritans who actually stepped in and restrained the bad guy and subdued him, a couple punches here and there. Husband came out, joined the party, and they were able to basically stop that from happening. But what we were looking at potentially, not only a carjacking and potentially kidnapping, and now if the bad guy being under the influence like he was on, I believe it was meth and heroin, now driving this car around town, raising all types of havoc, crashing into it with a kid in the back, potentially the mother as well. So these are a lot of issues all going on there, and that's simply for the lack of some of the steps not being followed. Number one, if you're in a transitional space, what is that? That's a place where you're coming and going and you're occupied in your car and you're not moving in your car, you're stationary. You are a potential target. If somebody has access to your vehicle while you're in it, they can potentially kidnap you, not only get your vehicle, but they can also have access to your house, because if they can get the keys, and a lot of people keep their registrations in the vehicle, now they know where you live. So now you've given them the keys to the kingdom, so to speak. And just because a bad guy is going to carjack you and then you think it's over with, it may not be over with. They might go to your house, get all your information. Then from there, sell that information on the black market, and now you have identity problems because now your information. So that's a common tactic that thieves are using now. So let's talk about some tangible things you can do to prevent the scenarios I just unfolded on you right now. Number one, if you're in your car, right, have situation one, lock the doors. I can't stress that enough. Keep the windows rolled up. Even if it's a hot day, you should have the air conditioner on, but if you can't afford the air conditioner because the gas prices, whatever, gas prices are low, by the way, you should be able to afford it now. But keep the windows at least rolled up to a certain degree where somebody can't just easily reach inside the car and unlock the door and rip you out. Keep at least several inches of glass between you and the outside, so somebody on the outside can't easily access the inside of the car, even if your doors are locked, because there is potential where somebody can reach in and potentially unlock the door from the inside as well. Situational awareness is key. Being able to look up and see what's going on, scan and assess. We call that a condition yellow, meaning that you have this condition where you're kind of on guard and alert. Now, a lot of parents, you guys already have this already. It's built into you, especially the mothers, when it comes to children, right? Your children are like, what's going on? I don't hear my son or daughter. What are they doing? You have that little sixth sense because you want to protect your kids. Well, you should also extend that to your vehicle, because there are threats out there that are looking to harm you, especially during these times where times are very desperate. Money is scarce. People are using more drugs, more alcohol, and people are a little bit more on the crazier side out there now. So you have to extend that sense of protection past out. Even after you're out there in the world in your vehicle, you think you're safe in your vehicle, you're not. And that false sense of security can draw problems. The second thing that you can do, I talked about having your vehicle registration in the car. Now the law says that you have to have some type of registration insurance in your vehicle. It just says with you. What does that mean? You can have a digital copy. You can take a picture of your registration, your insurance, have that on your phone. And that can also act as proof. So if you get into a situation where the police needs to have your identifying information, if you have your phone, you just access it from there. This way, if somebody does break into your car, just a burglary, and go through all your things and steals your garage door opener while you're at work, they've got your garage door opener and your registration to see where you live, go rob your house or burglarize your house later on. If at least if you have this on your phone, it's not in your vehicle, and it gives it that much more layer of protection to track you down. So that's a good way to mitigate your information being compromised, is keep digital copies of things on your phone and keep that with you. So if you are in a situation where you have to show proof documentation to the police, you just bring it up to your phone. And a lot of times you can email it to that officer to their work account, and they can use that for their official reports. And you're all satisfied with the law. So those are things that you can do. Here's the other thing. When you're out there and about, if there's a really need to be on your phone or be distracted, there's things that you can do. Like one of the things that I tell women a lot, and my wife is sometimes guilty of it, is when you're sitting in the car, for you ladies out there, we like to put on the lipstick, right? Check the mirror and do all that stuff. Those are opportunities where you can get mugged or get carjacked. Disciplining kids, okay? That happens. You got the kids in the back seat going crazy. You're like, hey, cut it out. Stop fighting with your brother, blah, 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 da, 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 da. And doing all that, perfect opportunities for you to be a victim because you're distracted with something else that's going on in there, right? Eating in your vehicle, believe it or not, right? You're enjoying that double, in and out, animal style, right? You're just like, oh, this is so good. And you're just here and here. Your world is in and out, and you don't see what's coming on. Those are times that you can be vulnerable as well. Just take a moment to look up, see what's going on, enjoy the day, scan what's going on. That can prevent a lot of that right there, okay? With that being said, the keys should be in your ignition, ready to go. This way, if you need to bail out in a hurry, you're in a position to do so. Now, if somebody comes up to your vehicle, and I'm gonna use Bethel right now as a bad guy. Let's go ahead and grab, we have fake weapons that we're gonna use for this scenario right here. And let's say that, let me send it right here. I'm in my car, I'm parked, I've got the keys to the ignition, the bad guy's gonna approach on the driver's side, and I get into a situation where I have somebody who approaches me with a weapon, presenting a weapon, and want my car. Okay, let's do that right now. And she's knocking on the glass, I'm driving, or I'm stopped, or maybe I'm on my phone, and we're in a freeze frame right here. Right here, if I didn't notice this ahead of time and I'm stuck, I'm shocked. And a lot of times you're gonna have this freeze moment. You're gonna be like, you're gonna be focused on this. The bad guy's probably gonna be telling you commands, open up the car, let me in. And there's a moment of truth that happens right here at this moment. And you're gonna have to deal with that. Now, we'll talk about two specific different situations, how we're gonna deal with this. Number one, I'm by myself, or number two, I've got my family with me. It changes the whole dynamics of when I have my family with me or other family members in the vehicle. So number one, when I talked about having the keys inside the car, that's for a specific reason. If I am gonna be sitting in my car, I want my seatbelt on, and this is the reason why. If I have the ability to drive out of there, I'm gonna drive out of there. Because if I'm sitting at the time it takes for me to then take my seatbelt, get everything I need and get out, is the same amount of time that I can put that car in drive or in reverse and get out of there. I need to get off what's called the X. The X is where you're at, that you're the target sitting here in this confined space. You're being ambushed. So what we teach people, and it's a proven method in the military and law enforcement, and even for civilians and active shooter, you gotta get off the spot where you're the most vulnerable, and that's here. The best way to do that is to drive out of there if you can. So if I have the bad guy here, and my exit is there, where I can just turn and drive, if he happens to be in the way, I've gotta choose my life, my family's life, and safety in his life. He's very low on the list at that point. My priority is my family life and mine, and we're presented with a deadly threat here, a gun or a knife or whatever. So at this point, it's deadly force. So I could use my vehicle as a weapon. Of course, I have a 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 pound weapon versus this. My weapon of car is probably gonna win versus the gun. Now here's the thing, if you're worried about getting shot, that's the next question, what if they shoot you? Let me tell you this, if he wanted to have shot you, he would have shot you before this would happen. A lot of times, the criminal is presenting a weapon to gain your compliance. Secondly, if they start shooting you from right now, a couple of things. Number one, it's just reality here. If they do shoot you, they wanted the car in the first place, now you're injured or hurt, or even worse than that. They've got to now physically get you out of the car, deal with whatever came out of your body, okay, and then get the car. They don't really are in the business of that. In their whole mind, they just wanted to get the car and go, okay? So, with that being said, put it in drive, and I'm going. Should he be in the way? That's unfortunate, but you should have made better decisions before we got to this point. decision I'm gonna make is survival and getting out of there. So if I can put the car to drive, I've got my seatbelt on, I'm gonna go. Now, every situation is gonna be different. You might have a parking curb, you might have another vehicle near you, you may be blocked in. This is why when you're driving to a place and you're parking, you need to consider where you're parking too. Where are your avenues of escape? Are you backed in? Are you driving in all the way? Or are you backing in? So me, I like to back in. And this gives me options because if I'm confronted with this situation here and I backed in, that set me up for success. Now I can simply drive out, and I can drive out with confidence because I have an open avenue of escape. I can see if there was somebody standing in front of me or some kids or any objects, or if a car blocked me, I can ram through. Maybe the bad guy parked and blocked me in. That's a tactic, by the way. That bad guys will park their car and block you in for this to happen. They'll jump out, and I can ram through that car and get to safety. Those are things that you need to think about, okay? Those are considerations. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, just because somebody has a gun up to your window right here, doesn't necessarily mean always they're gonna shoot. Now you do what you feel is most important at the time, but I can tell you statistically speaking, they're not gonna really shoot you from here because here's a couple of things that you have to think about too. If the window is up, which I told you the window should be up anyways, most cars have safety glass, tempered glass, and they come also with a film that's within that glass. What does that mean? When projectiles come through from weapons, like a bullet, a 9mm, or whatever caliber weapon, there is a chance, there's a highly likely chance that that bullet is going to be deflected with the glass. It changes the trajectory of when bullets come out. So he'd have to shoot multiple times to open up a hole before he gets proper shots on target. So even if we reverse the role, go ahead and get the other weapon, and I was carrying a weapon, and I wanted to shoot back, I still have to worry about the glass too. So even if I was to fire back, it's probably not going to hit him because those bullets are going to skip and do other crazy things because bullets like to follow the path of least resistance. So until there's a hole there. My point is this. The glass is your friend. If you have glass there, you have a little bit of protection. And it buys you just a split second of time to get your car into gear and go. There's been a lot of incidents that have been documented on film that you can research on YouTube where you can see these carjackings where the carjacker has not shot the occupant inside the car as soon as they take off, because what you're now doing, and this is a big one, it's called the reactionary gap. We also like to call it the OODA loop factor. OODA loop stands for, it's OODA. It's observing something, being able to orientate yourself, deciding and acting. OODA loop, O-O-D-A, observing, orientating, deciding, and acting. As soon as I start doing something else to affect the bad guy's OODA loop, it buys me more, because he's now has to figure out what he has to do now. This person's driving away, I didn't expect that. So he has to go through this process of how am I going to react here? And it constantly changes because I'm doing something. Now, if I had just got out of the car and surrendered, that's an option. You can do that. But if your family's in the car, you may not have that option. And that's why I'm talking about this. And this is why this is important. So what does that also mean? If you have your kids in the car, you have other family members in the car, if you're stationary, waiting for a drop-off or pick-up, maybe you're going for takeout or something like that, have everybody still in the seat belts. So if you need to bug out, everybody's strapped in. If you need to go over islands or curbs or something like that, nobody's getting ejected out of the car. That sounds harsh, but we're talking about a realistic survival situation. And these are the tactics that are most proven and the best practices. You could give up. If there's no reason to fight and you're by yourself and you had to choose between your property and your life, give up the property. I will say that, number one. But there's going to be situations, if you have your family and you have other loved ones in the vehicle, and this person has shown no regard for your life or the life of any other people, and now you let this person take over the vehicle while your family's in the car, you got children or other family members who may be elderly or disabled, and you stand between that, you have to take a stance. Now, there's no doubt, if I get robbed right now, if I'm by myself, and I need to give up this car and I'm by myself, I'll just give up the car. I have insurance. I can do that. I'm fine with that. We can go track the car and do all that stuff. But when it comes down to life, and I have to protect the life of my family and they were in the car, like that situation happened to the woman in the gas station, I'm going to have to take more drastic measures. Okay? So we're talking about transitional spaces, being aware, having your car locked, having everybody in the seatbelt, having your windows rolled up, air conditioner on, being alert to what's going on around you. Not keeping sensitive documents in your car in case it gets burglarized or gets compromised later on. Those are all tangible things that you can do, okay? Some other things that you can do as well. The one thing is keeping good communication, letting people know where you're at all times. A lot of times these situations happen. A lot of people don't know where you're at, so you check in with your family members. What does that mean? This happened, unfortunately, here at, there was a bank robbery, and one of the victim's daughters was sitting out in the car. She was actually in communication with her dad. It was the bank robbery that happened, and she right away reported what was going on. They were able to use that, and they were able to then communicate, because you may not have the ability at the time to dial 911, but if somebody knows where you're at, and you can get a text message to them or something like that, they can then send that information, get you to get help. What does that mean? Don't think that 911 is going to solve your problem instantly. You have to kind of rely on yourself in the moment, because if you're relying on 911 to be there, the quickest response that you can get is probably 5 to 6 minutes. A lot can happen in 5 to 6 minutes. If you're hurt or anything like that, you have to be able to be your own responder in that instance, okay? We're gonna give you a different scenario. If the shooter comes in and gets inside the car. So we have Beto, he enters my car, get inside the car, and he has the gun to my head, okay? This is a very bad situation here. What would I do, okay? Again, it depends now if I have my family in the car or if I'm by myself. I will stress, if I'm by myself and I just need to get out of there, I'm gonna get out of there. But if I have my family in the car, I have this person who's just entered my car with a gun to my head, I might have to fight. How do I control this, all right? So number one, if I have a gun to my head, I'm gonna grab the gun and push it away like this. Even if you're a woman, you could do this. Why this is important? If this is a real gun, understand that a lot of carjackings, the bad guy doesn't even use a real gun. They'll use something that's lit like this and painted, or a BB gun or something like that. So just keep that in mind. But a lot of times if you can just grab the weapon, just over the action or the slide right here, and if a shot does go off, you've just now created a malfunction with this weapon. The weapon has become useless. We demonstrate this all the time in active shooter classes, where it'll cause a malfunction. Now this weapon just becomes rendered inoperable. Because what happens is if the gun does go off, remember I grab the gun and I'm pushing it towards the dashboard. So if it goes off into the dash. But I've just rendered the gun inoperable, okay? What does this mean? It's just a dead weight. There's still a risk that they could use the gun to beat you over the head. But at this point, I've taken control of the gun and I can start to fight. If I need to transition to the other hand and start to attack the attacker, I can do that. Or from here, I can try to put that car into drive and drive off and get that attacker to go along, maybe outside they're halfway inside the car. If not, I'm trying to fight my way to get that attacker out of the vehicle. That's what you need to do. If you want to render a gun inoperable, that's what you do. Take your hand, put it right over the slide like this, face the gun in a safe direction, and then the gun goes off. Now you have a chamber, a spent round chambered still that has not been ejected, causing a malfunction in that weapon, making the weapon inoperable. From there, the fight is not over. You have to bring the fight to the attacker by disrupting them, disarming them, and then following up with that so you can get that attacker out of your vehicle. And what you do at that point, since you've rendered the gun inoperable, you have to be able to attack and defend your family at that point. Again, if you're by yourself, you may not want to do that. You just want to get out of the vehicle and get out of there, okay? So that's how we create malfunctions with weapons. You guys want to add to anything about that? He's actually done this in real life with a real firearm. Can you talk about any of your experience with that?
Yeah, a lot of times people, when we explain this, they get real timid. We've actually demonstrated this on a blank gun that we use in our active shooter classes. A lot of times people's idea with the with this platform of a weapon with the handgun, they think that the gun itself will burn them or that's that they'll get shot. Understand, if you can get behind this barrel, you know, the projectile, the bullet will not hit you. If you're going right over this, this action won't take place because your hand's disrupting it. So understand that when Sensei Justin goes ahead and grabs it, another good point to point out is I can't even turn the gun back into him because of this bone alignment in his arm. So this right here, the round's gonna go off maybe through the door panel, and then again, like he was saying, at that point it's a paperweight. I can't turn the gun back into him because he has this bone alignment, and from here it's a party. You know, he just goes to work. So just understand that.
It works the same way if you got caught, if you're following the principles we're teaching here, and somebody sticks a gun through the window at your face, you could, hey, here's another tactic you could use. False surrender. Hey man, it's cool, look, I'll give you the car. Maybe you got your family in the car, okay? Because I was able to basically give him a false sense of security, and my hands are here, I just brought my hands in a position I can grab the weapon, setting me up for that right there. So if the gun does goes off into the steering wheel dashboard area, now maybe here I can access drive away or fight off the X from here. I'm doing something, I'm not just sitting here doing whatever. I might be forced to do this again with the family in the car. Maybe the bad guy didn't realize my kid is in the car seat. I have two boys, both of them sit in car seats. So even if he did try to carjack me and I went along with the program, I got my two kids. I don't have the time. He's certainly not gonna wait for me to unbuckle all my kids and get them out when he takes the car. I doubt that your attacker's gonna be that nice or forgiving. So now I'm forced to fight because I have no choice, okay? Is there anything you wanna talk about this right here?
I'd say probably just know that you disrupting this is going to, again, how Sensei Justin was talking about, throw off the OODA loop. Now he has to, you know, comprehend what's going on here, what's he going to do here. And most of the time, unless he's really determined, they're probably going to, you know, criminals won't go for, criminals sought out to look for easy targets. And when you're giving them this much resistance, then they're going to move on to someone else, right?
Yes. And just because you're a woman, don't think that you can't do this. I can sit my wife here who's 4'11 and a half, 120 pounds, maybe 130 pounds, do this right here. And just this alone, like try to move the gun towards me and try to pull the weapon out. This alone, just the grip right here. And if the weapon goes off, again, because you're keeping the slide, it's gonna create that, it doesn't take a whole lot of force to do that. So just a little couple of insiders. We teach military law enforcement these same concepts right here. Proven effective. He's even done it in real life with a real weapon, and even here in this particular dojo with a blank gun. So just some tactics with that.
Again, it's not the strength of him holding the gun, it's this bone alignment, it's the leverage that he's having. So that's why he's saying that women, man, anyone can do it. Because again, it's this bone. My arm isn't going to beat this bone alignment, so keep that in mind.
Keep in mind too, he was saying a really good point. If you show any type of resistance, they thought they were going to have an easy target, usually they're going to bug out at this point. Because if they wanted to just essentially murder you from the get-go, they would have done that. You wouldn't even be in this situation when they took the car. They're trying to get you to get out. And because you're showing any kind of dominance, resistance, that's too much for that person. They're going to be on their way because now it's drawing a scene. Honking the horn, being here, being able to get to you here, honk the horn, create the scene, hey, fire! Yell fire because everybody responds to fire very well versus just screaming. Because your kids could just be screaming too because they're playing around. But you start yelling fire, it gets people attention. Hey, what's going on over there? Honk, honk. And then maybe the panic button goes off on your car or whatever. You're going to bug out. So just some things to consider right there. Creating a scene, causing noise, causing to draw attention, especially in the middle of the daytime. Maybe we can get some good Samaritans, hopefully to intervene or at least film it. A lot of people don't even intervene, they just film it. But hey, we'll use that. We'll identify this guy later and go catch him at a different time. Since you have any questions about any of the things we talked about so far?
just a basic statement is that, working with a lot of these car manufacturers with like auto mining and electric vehicles, they're talking about a car in idle uses so little of gas, by just sitting and idling. It's not like you're gonna sit there it'll take you like an hour or so, or even more to even think about even half a gallon of usage. And with gas, only like $2.79 a gallon versus the cost of half a gallon of sitting in a parking lot, even if you're there for an hour, the idle mode uses very, very little gas. So if you think you're saving a lot of gas, you're actually saving little gas, because in an idle mode, and not like you're just driving mode where you're accelerating and just sitting in idle, you still have the ability to just put it in gear and go, because you're not using a lot of gas. People are worried about, oh, I'm using a lot of gas. You're not. But you have air conditioning on, you got your doors locked, you got all your power stuff on. And so just the idle mode itself is the least amount of gas that you can use with that vehicle is stationary. So it's not a lot of gas use. So if a person says, well, I'll roll the windows down, or something like that, it's safer and cheaper if you think $2 for basically 2 hours of sitting in idle, versus your life, and a chance for you to have an advantage of getting away. Leave the car idling and the air conditioning on where you're cool, and the doors locked and the windows up. That way you're able to respond like in the way that you're talking about, even faster. I think you covered, some really great things, especially, with the opportunities of what people are not prepared about what happens at gas stations and things like that, or now in a parking lot. I know with COVID-19, a lot of times only one person goes in the shop, and a lot of people, one person will stay in the car. Well, I'm hearing that a lot of the robberies are happening inside of the parking lots. Instead of people going inside and robbing a store, they're waiting for you to come out with a basket full of food that you've already purchased, and they rob you while you're getting in your car, or they'll follow you home and they'll wait till you are unlocking your car and taking it into your house, because you're vulnerable again. So like you're saying, be aware of your surroundings, even when you're unloading the groceries in your car to take into the house. Sometimes people will leave their car open, their house open, and they're not even aware that someone followed them home.
Right.
And they're gonna take advantage of that. So just kind of an observation that I've seen and heard. And then, like you were talking about the home invasions, there was a report going out that people were portraying themselves as PG&E,
Right.
or as other people that were wearing masks and gowns that looked like they were doing door-to-door surveys to see if anybody in the household has COVID-19. So they got you to open the door, and then they rush you to home invasion.
Right.
Because you drop your guard about somebody who's outside taking a survey wearing like protective gear, like a nurse or a doctor would wear, and a face mask. So it hides their face and it hides their identity, but at the same time, when you think that they're a safe person to open the door to, that's when your invasion. So you need to ask identification and make a call to make sure that they're legitimate before you even think about opening the door for them.
Right.
So that's just some of the points that I wanted to just add to this too.
And that actually brings up another point, and kind of bouncing from that topic to the home invasion, kind of bouncing back to the vehicle stuff. That's also a tactic used in vehicles too for carjacking. So with that being said, people try to scam you. This happened to one of our friends, where his wife, she was at Costco, and a guy pulled up and he was like, "Hey, your tire is flat. I think you need to come out and check your tire. It's really low." She thought it was she being, a self-defender, and that mindset, I think this guy's kind of trying to get me out of the car, baiting her out of the car to go look at something, and then maybe taking advantage of that situation. So just know that your attackers, they can be savvy too, just with all the scams going on. "Hey, I think your car's leaking a lot of oil. I just pulled up, and you might want to come check that out." Or you'll have people who park like a shopping cart behind your car, and you back up, "Oh man, let me go get that shopping cart." Have the car on and running, open the door just real quick, let me go get the shopping, and somebody's hiding behind another car, jump in and drive off with your car. So that, again, being aware of your situation and your surroundings and knowing your situations is critical, along with people who are showing up to your house claiming to be who they're not. We see a lot of that, and we also see the more common situations is the people who come at your house late at night. If they're coming at your house past 9 o'clock, unless you know that person, so people shouldn't be coming past at your house, knocking on your door past 9 o'clock. I don't care who you are, unless they were invited over. But the more common calls that we get called for service is that people will show up at people's houses at midnight, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, banging on the door. And a lot of those situations, and people should be aware of, is a person who's either mentally disturbed or or under the influence, and they're going to the wrong house. And they think that the house that they're banging on is the house they live on, because they're either so intoxicated or they're not in their right mind. And so they're trying to force entry in a place that they think they live, and now you've got your family sleep upstairs or in another room. How are you going to deal with that situation? So that kind of segues into that. So they don't pretend to be who they are. They're just trying to get into that house because they think they live there, or they're so drunk. And so you have that issue. So let's talk about some of those issues right there, since I do have time to cover that.
We're
real
at
quick.
40 minutes.
Okay, so at this time, we've talked about the scams since I covered it. If you think that that person is, not who they are, ask for their ID, call on the company and all that stuff. And once they feel like the gig is up, they'll probably end up moving on. But if you have those individuals who determine to get into your house, or a legitimate home invader, then let's talk about what we're going to do from there. And from this, we're actually going to get up on the kind of role play some of this. So at this point, we'll talk about here at the front door. We'll pretend that this mark right here is a threshold, and I need to be able to open the door, and then Beto's my bad guy. For this time, you can have the gun out. And let's say that they're trying to get into your door. Now, 70% of most attacks, home invasion is going to happen at your front door, and they're going to want to try to kick that door, okay? So first of all, you need to start thinking about right now, while you're in shelter in place, if you're going to be thinking about remodeling or improving your perimeter security, what kind of door do you have? Do you have a door with glass in it? Is there glass off the side? What is securing your door? Do you have a deadbolt? You should have at least 3-inch long case hardened steel on all of the different hinges, because it's going to be more difficult to break down. I've been in plenty of places where I've kicked doors to get in police, right? And the ones that are the hardest, usually the criminals know this because they're the ones reinforcing these doors because they don't want the police in there. And the ones that we have the most trouble getting into is those reinforced doors. And it doesn't take a lot of money to reinforce your door, because criminals do it all the time. They'll take case hardened steel 3-inch nails on all of the different hinges they have are drilled deep into the studs. Just that alone makes it that more difficult for them to breach the door. That alone, that cheap investment right there buys you time. Time buys you better options and buys better tactics, okay? So the number one thing is to make your family safe. So what this is, when you're at home right now, you should replay and recreate a drill like this at your home. This is what I want you guys to do. These are some tangible things. Create a plan. Everybody's household situation is going to be different. Whether you live in an apartment, a studio apartment, a single unit family, multi-level, multi-story place, wherever that is, have a plan. Talk about it with your family. Not only talk about it, actually walk through what would happen if at 1 in the morning somebody's banging on the door. How are we going to run this? And then run it as if it was a real situation. So you want to take that crawl, walk, run approach. Have a code word with your family. Don't sit there and on the moment when it's happening, try to issue a bunch of orders. Hey, you go in the bathroom, lock the door, you go grab that, hide over there. Because this is a matter of seconds what's happening if somebody's trying to come into your house. You need to have already rehearsed it, planned it. So when you drop a code word on somebody, on your family, you can say something like Irene, or a secret word like Bubba Gump, or maybe something that's not used in common everyday life. So if you say that word, it's almost like a fire drill. They know exactly what they're doing. There's a designated spot where people are going, like a panic room. They can lock and secure, fortify that position, and then you can either deal with the threat or get on 911, or they're taking care of that while you're dealing with the situation. You need to have all this already ready, because when it does happen, if it does happen, you don't want to be creating the plan on the fly. So the intruder, as much as you making commands and saying things, they can hear you as well what's going on, okay? And so a lot of times you have to also count on not just one person. If somebody's determined to get into your house, it might be a second or a third person. That's starting to be a trend with home invasions. They'll have multiple people rush that front door, and everybody has a job. It's a heist. Hey, you're going to tie up the people. Hey, you're going to neutralize the person coming out the door. You and you are going through the house. You take the front. You take the first story. It sounds like scary stuff, but criminals who've done this, they've done it before, and they have this all planned out. So let's talk about weapons, okay? Now we're talking about somebody's trying to come into your house with a weapon. We have a lot of people who have weapons at their house. And whether that's your choice or not, you need to also train and be proficient in that if that is your situation. So if I'm bringing a weapon into the situation because I'm in my home, I have a legal right to defend myself, we also have to consider a lot of things now. If this person's armed, I want to have at least the same amount of force, if not greater than that person. Here's the other thing. What are you loading into your weapon? When's the last time you've been to the range? Have you shot under stress? Because this is going to be a very stressful situation. What kind of materials do you have in your house? Because if I start shooting through the door, it may get through the door, but can it get through the bad guy? And what if my neighbor, if I'm living in an apartment complex, is going to go through several layers of whatever building materials that potentially hit them? What are my angles? Do I want to be able to have my door and shoot here, or do I want to maybe take another position, maybe come out a different way and meet the bad guy in my driveway? I have a plan in my family where I am not, if somebody's coming at the front door, I have a plan where I'm not going to discuss everything here on the tape to give away my secrets.
Right.
But I'm not going to address a threat directly on. My doors are reinforced, but I have an alternate plan to confront the bad guy from a different angle. And why that buys me an advantage, because the bad guy is going to be focused on the front door, but I might be coming from a different angle and using some of my vehicles in my driveway as a distraction to approach from a different angle. So from here, I have a plan where with my family, they're going to go to a safe room, they're going to hunker down, my wife is going to have some protection with her, and then I'm going to come around a different way. We've rehearsed this, and with house off, I'm setting off all of my car alarms at the same time. Why are you doing that, Sensei Justin? Because I'm bringing a lot of attention. I have 3 cars in my driveway. I'm setting off all the panic or alarm buttons on my car, and I'm also setting off the alarm in my house. It creates more of what I talked about, the OODA loop. It brings the attention to the attackers, and now they didn't anticipate that. They have to now plan. There's all this noise. It's in the middle of the night. People are going to see me. So a lot of times, I'm like, no, I want to draw attention, because now they're thinking, oh man, the gig is up. All these car alarms are going off. Maybe the house alarm is going off. I'll trigger the alarm to get a response. Everybody's hunkered down safe, and I'm coming around a different angle. Now, if I need to meet this person force on force, I'm in a more of a position advantage to take appropriate action versus trying to fight through my front door. Potentially, if I get neutralized by the bad guy, now they have free access. I've come in from a different angle. So every plan is going to be different with your family, but trust me, have a plan, rehearse it, isolate some of the problems with it, because if you don't rehearse it, you don't drill it, you're not going to discover some of the errors or flaws within your own plan. You just go, ooh, that's going to be a problem. See, you went to that room, that door doesn't work, or hey, you're going to go upstairs. How do we get out that window if we need to get out of there? What's the reunification point if we need to get out of the second story? Whose house we're going to meet at? Those are all things you have to consider in having this plan with your family. Dropping the code words, running the things through. Lastly, and I'll kind of close with this for the sake of time. What are your other skills that you have? Just because you buy a gun doesn't mean that you're going to be able to, defend your house successfully. Have you been to the range? Have you had any kind of training classes? What's your fitness like? What's your diet like? All of those things play into these situations right here. What is your empty hand skills? Have you come to a self-defense class here? We offer private lessons. We could talk about this more in depth here when things start to become back to normal. We offer private lessons about these situations to train you in some empty-handed skills on how to deal with attackers and disarming guns and things like that you can do to make you more sharp on your empty-handed skills. What's your medical training? Everybody should have bleeding control skills. If you get shot in your house and you need a tourniquet or something like that, do you have those skills? Because again, your fastest response for your first responders is 5 to 7 minutes. You can bleed out and die in that amount of time. So having a robust first aid kit where you have tourniquets, you have pressure dressings, you have things that can control major bleeding, have your family trained on this. Do you have this stuff in your vehicle? So if you are ambushed, attacked in your car, you can stop the bleeding before you're passed out. You can keep it in the glove compartment, maybe in the seat next to you or whatever. It's not the trunk, so you can easily get to these things in case you're injured. Because again, it's going to take a long time for those first responders to get there to patch you up. Have your family trained on this. My son, he's 6 years old, JJ, who's in the last video, he knows how to put a tourniquet on. Maybe not the best in the world, but he knows how to do it. He's 6. I don't make the training scary, I make it fun. So what you can do with your family is have them take a bleeding control class. We offer these, a lot of times we offer them every few months. And you can get your family one of these bleeding control packs and get everybody trained. Maybe get into a car wreck. There's more likely a situation you're getting into a medical emergency than you would maybe even a carjacking or use of force. So you need to have skills like this to be able to save lives, and more importantly, your family's life. So I can't advocate that enough. Beto has what's called the IFAC right here. It's an individual first aid kit that has these things that are in here that you can access in the case of emergency. If you don't have one of these, get one. If not, there's these bleeding control kits that you can buy either from Modern Warrior Training Concepts or from North American Rescue, and you can keep these like $50. They have tourniquets, they have bleeding control things in here. Get trained on it, okay? Practice this stuff regularly. This is the things that save lives. Everybody talks about CPR and how important that is. I think this is even more important because a healthy person can die faster than the person who has complications from other illnesses if you have some bleeding control skills. That's proven medical science right there. And we provide training in this stuff too. If you need that, let us know and we can provide that training for you, your family, or for your organization. These are critical things right here in this day and age where active shooters, home invasions, and carjackings, and people using knives and guns to hurt you. We live in a day and age where we have to prepare for everything, including COVID-19. So those are just some of the mindsets that you want to have when you're dealing with this. And lastly, and this is not really talked about a lot, but you want to have your spiritual fitness as well. So whatever that is, whatever religion that is, you might want to be good with that because you never know what you're dealing with. You want to have that peace of mind that should something happen, that you're not thinking about other things, you want to be focused on what's going on here. So having mind, body, and spirit, and having those things in line is super critical in order to be the best defender you can be. So, Cynthia, do you have any questions?
Yeah, Justin, just for a point of clarification, if someone is trying to break into your house at the front door, or like I said, they're kicking it or they're jiggling the doorknob, you can't, as a person on the inside of the house, just shoot through the door because they're trying to get in. Don't they have to enter inside of the house first before you're able to realize that your life is at risk, that you can protect it with?
That's a good question. So that's a question that comes up a lot. When can I shoot? So under the California use of deadly force, there's a lot of case law that identifies this. So we'll break it down to basically 3 things you need to have in order to have justified deadly force. And this goes with a weapon, even your hand skills, if it's going to be, or picking up an axe or something like that. So just using deadly force in general. You have to have in your mind that the bad guy has ability, the intent, okay? And you have to have the fear that this person's going to be imminent in order for you to use deadly force. It would be the same standard as a police officer in a self-defense shooting. Fear, intent, ability. Imminent threat. What does that mean? Somebody's kicking through your door and you start to see the door frame start to give. Wood chips are flying out. One more kick and they're in. And they, maybe in their hand, they are holding a weapon. There are 2 or 3 people out there with masks kicking in your front door. Do I have to wait and to shoot them until I get a clear line, okay? Everybody's gonna have to make that decision for themselves because it's gonna be that person, it will have to testify for that in court. For me, where did the blue pen go? If I can see somebody if I'm a homeowner, I'm armed, this person kicks through that door, boom, and now it's open. I can see. At this point, I might be already getting shot. So if I can shoot through that door, I have to be able to articulate. You have fear, intent, and ability. And I check those boxes. Every case will be looked at independently. But that's the 3 things you need.
Right.
For me personally, if somebody's kicking through my door and I can see that the seams and the wood frame is, I'm going to take that shot. That's me.
Right.
For some people, they need to see a clear picture, okay? But that could go, but then I'll change the scenario too. Maybe I have 4 people outside my door, all trying to come in. At that point, if the door was to open, even if I was to get the first shot off, it's too late because then I've got 3 other people rushing in behind them.
Right.
So it's whatever you can articulate. For me, I'm articulating this person has demonstrated through their action. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. It's dark outside. They have masks. They have weapons in their hand. There's 4 of them. They are kicking through my door. I am, in fear of my life and for my family. I've just laid it all out for you. I think it's going to be very hard for somebody to feel like, oh, that was not a right. You're not in the right to defend yourself. This is where it changes though. So he kicks the door open, and I'm like, I'm gonna shoot you, get out of my house. Turns around, runs, and then I pull the trigger. This is where people get into trouble, is because there's no more of a threat, at least. This person is surrendering, and you shoot him in the back. That's where people tend to get into hot water. Or they're in their house, hey, I've got a gun, get out of my house, and they start to leave. And then you end up pulling the trigger, you do something where you smash them over the head with the poker or the fireplace thing or something like that. And that's where people get into the muddy waters. So there's 2 things you need to worry about, and you have to understand this as a homeowner, and if you're a gun owner as well. You have criminal and you have civil liability. So you could also too be in the clear to criminal, but that was justifiable. There's also civil that you may have to worry about as well. What does that mean? That means that if you did end up shooting, right, boom, you're clear to that, but that bullet passed through the bad guy and now it hit your neighbor's door, you'll be responsible for those damages because you damaged the neighbor, it went through them. Or that bullet went through the neighbor's door and now hit somebody inside the other house. You may not be criminally responsible for that, but you'll be definitely civil because you're responsible for every round that comes out of that weapon. So those are some things you need to consider. That's why your angle as a homeowner, you have to think about, if you're a gun owner, you have to consider the type of ammunition, which angle are you shooting, how am I going to address the threat, what's my standoff, am I putting anything outside my home to slow the response, am I cameras, am I doing other things to mitigate slowing down the bad guy so they're not just coming right up to the front door and have easy access. Those are all things that you should be concerned at as a homeowner.
So it's probably good, like you were talking about, not only having signs outside of your house that show alarm here or video, but turning on the alarm systems in your car that's outside to activate those, as well as the house alarm. With all that noise going off, that's going to be a huge deterrent by itself too, from a person wanting to continue to keep trying to get in. So I just want to say those are some incredible key points to a lot of the self-defense for during this COVID-19 time. And again, just to ask if anybody's interested in maybe purchasing what you just displayed as far as the safety kits.
Bleed control kits?
Yeah, the
Yes.
bleed control kits. Can they order those through your Modern Warrior Concepts?
Or from the dojo, they can contact you. And
Well, what they can do is if you are interested in doing that, just put your contact information on the Facebook page under this video that you're interested in contacting Sensei Justin Love and Modern Warrior Concepts and maybe purchasing some of these safety kits for your vehicle, your house, your cabin, so that you have these things at ready hand to be able to respond to whatever emergencies that you might have as a family for a cut or an injury, so that you have those. So if you're interested in that, just make a comment that you're interested, and we'll get in contact with you and to make a contact with Sensei Justin to be able to order those so he can get those to you.
And not only that, provide some training with that as well.
Absolutely.
We are registered instructors for, which is also known as Tactical Combat Casualty Care. We've both been through day-long courses, traveled, and I'm a registered instructor for National Stop the Bleed. We put on the class, we put on a couple here in the dojo.
And we'll
already.
do more classes.
Yes.
We'll set up another class for just those type of things specifically too, so that parents are interested in wanting to do tourniquets and the right time and the wrong time when to do certain type of first aid application when they have no ready available help to come there because they're maybe isolated someplace like on a vacation trip and they got it in their car, what they can do. So yes, once we get this all back to normal, we'll look at maybe scheduling another first aid and another active shooter type seminar with Modern Warrior Concepts again. Again, Sensei Justin, Beto, I just want to thank you both for adding to the educational piece of self-defense and winning conflict without conflict through the martial way, but at the same time, making everybody feel comfortable that they have an idea on how to respond to a bad situation.